Hang on, Mr. Douglas. Yeah.
Ooh, what comes after 7? That's right, it's 8, at least most of the time. Welcome back, everybody, for Chapter 8 of Ingo Swann's Secrets of Power Volume 1. Brief exploration, this time around only one excerpt. This chapter really dives deep into the pyramidal structure presented as the power structure and the presentation of power to the masses. In fact, the title of the chapter is The Traditional Power Pyramid. We'll kick it off quick with the quote and go from there. Again, a discussion about the structure of the pyramid of power. Here we go. Of all the possible designs for societal power structures, the shape of the structure as a pyramid has been most prevalent throughout history. Therefore, that design has long been accepted not only as traditional, but as inherently natural within our species as a whole. So, the pyramidal power structure is assumed to be emblematic and symbolic of power itself. One of the subtle results of this is that writers seeking to reveal the anatomy of power end up assessing not the anatomy of power itself, but the anatomy of the conventional power pyramid. This is an important distinction to make by those who can grok it, in that a societal power pyramid can house power, but the house is not the power itself. And yet again, Ingo is able to sift through the sands of the seemingly obvious and find some sparkly gems for us to enjoy and ponder. In this case, the idea of most of society looking to talk about power and power structures. In this case, when society is looking to examine power, it ends up not examining power itself, but it ends up examining the power structure presented to us in the form of a pyramid. And I love that point at the end of the quote, that the societal power pyramid can house power, but the house is not the power itself. So much of what is presented to us is a construction with an agenda attached to it, and what we continuously come up against is that within that agenda there is encased this vector of depowerment to the individual. Now in the chapter, Ingo goes on to discuss social conditioning also built into the mix. Those that support the power pyramid get their power pyramid doggy treats, and those that don't get their power pyramid rolled up newspaper. And especially today, when you have all of society in lockstep condemning somebody, something, some issue, a category of consideration, it is worth it for the individual to take a look for themselves and come to their own tentative conclusions, or at least considerations about the subject. Because often, if the power pyramid says it ain't good for you, well, it's worth considering otherwise. I don't pretend to be an expert, but I'm not going to pretend to be dumb and roll over either. But that's why we're here. We ain't rolling over. A point that Ingo gets into within this chapter that I find interesting is this idea of incorporation. And if you can imagine with me now a pyramid, the top that has the elites, those that are the power distributors, the middle, those agents of the elite enacting their agendas on behalf of the elite, and so given a certain amount of artificial power within the structure they are attempting to uphold and strengthen. And then you have the masses at the bottom, the biggest chunk, where we all are, or at least most of us are, where we are incessantly bombarded with this idea of compliance and incorporation into the system, into this power pyramid structure. Ingo goes on to present some definitions of incorporate. Here he says, 1, to unite thoroughly with or work indistinguishably into something already existent, like the presented power pyramid structure, and 2, to blend or combine thoroughly to form a consistent whole. But when you think about it, as Ingo presents as we move on, there is no real incorporation going on here. You have the top doling out commands and bits of scraps from the table, and you either get compliance or rejection of that compliance, rebellion in many of its myriad facets of expression. But really there is no incorporation, there is no integration, there is no blending into a consistent whole. No, what you have are controllers and controlees. And I would personally add, especially in this day and age, those that are resisting that attempt at control. Those that are searching, seeking for their own middle way, our unique yellow brick road, outside this presented structure and its pre-formatted paths of subservience and support to the structure as it is. And as the chapter moves on, Ingo breaks down further different facets of what might be regarded as meaningful areas of activity and power associated with those areas of activity. But he makes this point, which is fun to hold in our heads, especially with the presentation of wealth and monetary affluence jammed in our faces these days. Ingo says, wealth is always associated with power, but wealth alone does not automatically grant access to societal power, an access which many who are not wealthy often achieve. Hold that in your head. Allow your reality box, your frame of mind, to incorporate that little ditty. Wealth does not automatically grant access to societal power, and access to that power is often achieved by those who aren't wealthy, at least not at the start. And we're steeped in this discussion in the present time. Ingo does bring up the idea that these power structures are designed in a great way by those who are societally approving education and what it consists of or doesn't consist of, what the textbooks are teaching, how we even get to engage with history and how that's presented to us, what's considered appropriate or inappropriate in terms of philosophic, scientific, or sociological teachings, and of course, what everyone is being educated away from, like how to search for ways to activate and strengthen our own individual power. Not so here. Ha ha! That's exactly what we're doing! And while I do not think I'm anywhere near as funny as Monty Python, I think of their skits. I think of Life of Brian. I think of their way of, kind of giving the middle finger to the way that society was presented to them in the 1960s and 70s. I think that kind of rebelliousness is a healthy kind of ingredient in our daily diet, a necessary spice to sprinkle on the pink sludge that society jams down our throats. And if you've never heard it, the song Always Look on the Bright Side of Life, great song, great motivator, lots of fun. And when I was in high school, my homeroom teacher, really cool dude, would play that song just as the bell for first period would start, when we would all be released into the prison hallways to find our way to whatever indoctrination room was first on the docket. He'd play that song, Always Look on the Bright Side of Life by Monty Python. It is a goodie, and I definitely recommend it if you haven't heard it. Even if you have, it's a part of my YouTube playlist. If you are enjoying these excerpts, very soon, you can join me for the entirety of the first volume of Ingo Swann's Secrets of Power, where I narrate his wonderful words in the audio version of this book. But definitely expand your frame of mind by visiting ingoswann.com, INGOSWANN.com. Very cool website about the man and his myriad works. Well, we're keeping this one short and sweet, relatively. Thanks for joining. Thanks for hanging. Always look on the bright side of life. And I will catch you on the next one. Cheerio, and more power to you.